music of Bach as you've never heard it before. It's a very interesting realisation of the cello suites there.
Certainly is.
And pick the
Who was
difference. Well, it's what's her name? Anne Meyer, I think her name is. But did you hear that there's a piano accompaniment throughout? And that's the defining feature. And the piano accompaniment, I mean, this a lot of cellists would just turn their back on me for talking about this, even mentioning it, because it's absolutely sacrilegious to think that there's someone wrote a piano accompaniment to the Bach cello suites. But it was actually done a long time ago by none other than Robert Schumann. So Schumann wrote a set of accompaniments to all the 6 cello suites. Is that crazy? Amazing. And I just think it adds a different quality. Certainly, I don't think it particularly enhances it. I'd much rather hear them in the unaccompanied version, because that's the spirit of the piece as we understand it. But as you know, Bach's music is available to so many different interpretive approaches, and in this instance, yes, a piano accompaniment. And I think it's quite sensitive. I think it sort of works in its own way. It's interesting. So, yeah, there we go. Robert Schumann's addition to the cello suites. And we heard the prelude to suite number 6. Okay, Frank, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so how you been?
Not bad, thanks. We're having family to dinner tonight, so I may have to take off a bit early.
Yes, look, I will have to as well, because we've got everyone, but spontaneously we've invited the clan. I think we've got about at least 10 people descending on us in the next little while, so
right.
I'll just go for an hour or so, and then I better join the party.
Be about the same, I should think.
Yeah, so that'll fit in. But it's been sort of a nice low-key day, which is what I need at the moment. So, just doing little projects. Been working on my Everything Edison project. And I made I've got these special sort of goggles which enable me to see very microscopic things. They're sort of like, magnifiers, and allows me to work. They're sort of jeweler's magnifiers, I think they are, or something of that kind. And I've been trying to replace the stylus on the cantilever, so I can play 2-minute wax cylinders.
Do they help?
Yeah, well, look, I got there and I got the super glue, and I found, because you can use the center of a ballpoint pen, so I found a few old pens, and I got the ball bearings out, which are tiny.
Oh, God.
They're the size of ant size. They're little, and they often just ping away and they disappear. So you just got to have a white sheet and containment to stop it disappearing, and then tiny tweezers and these magnifiers, and using a toothpick and a tiny little bit of super glue. And you've firstly got to crimp the cantilever from a ruined stylus, and so flatten that off, and then you just put this little thing on just with the tweezers. It's so it's just micro work. Anyhow, I've got it all working.
And you should have been a surgeon.
No. I think anyone can do it. It's just hard.
I don't think so.
Well, it's just, these goggles make the big difference, really. But anyhow, I made 2 of them, and one of them sort of worked much better than the other. And then it just broke off about 5 minutes ago. So I'm back to square one. But that's what happens. It's trying to get the glue to cement something with such a small surface area is a huge challenge. And ideally, I'd make a little trough for it. I'd have to gouge a little trough, or use a tiny, tiny drill and just make a little pan for the ball bearing to sit in. And then I think it'd be a more secure arrangement.
There's a kind of glue that you can get that will set by ultraviolet light that dentists use.
That's right. Good point. I hadn't thought about that.
For this sort of work, it sounds like it could be just the thing.
Probably would be. Yeah, that's a really good point.
You can buy it on the internet.
Yeah, sure. No, that would be interesting to try something like that.
It's in about 5 seconds.
Right.
You just make the connection and hold it and shine ultraviolet on it.
Ultraviolet light on it, and then it sets. Hey, that's really interesting. Well, I'm open to any ideas. I was going to keep experimenting, and whenever I have an hour or so, most of my projects have to be done sort of within an hour.
Okay.
If I can do it in an hour, that's all good. And so I've had that on my mind for a while. And so I made 2 of them. One of them was in a really old cartridge I had kicking around. I don't know what. I think it's just some aftermarket cartridge, which had a broken cantilever, and I just that glued on really well, and that's the one that stayed, but it seems to be distorting terribly. So I have a feeling that the output from the Hill and Dale is just saturating the armature inside the cartridge, and it's just completely maxing out, unfortunately. It's something like that. Either that or there's too much compliance and it's not it's not finding an equilibrium. So it's work in progress. It's just something to do, and it gives me a chance to connect with this side of the hobby. I've got this mission, you see. I really want to play these cylinders on the radio.
Absolutely.
So that's the plan, and we'll get there. It'll come together, and all good fun though. What else? I have been listening to some early recordings, and some really, really early recordings, other than Edison cylinders, online, and I've subscribed to a channel by a chap called Tim Garrick, Gracyk, and he wrote some books some years ago on English comedy, and I think I've got one or two of them here.
All right.
And I think it's him. And he's a
like media comedy, or
I think
comedy book.
I think he wrote the book on Hancock's one on Hancock's Half Hour.
Oh, okay. That's what I had in mind.
Yeah, and scripts and things like that. He had some scripts. I think it's him. I might be getting him mixed up. Anyhow, he's
brilliant, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They're just wonderful. Yeah. So this fellow Tim has a website, a Google channel devoted to really rare historic recordings, and he does a great job transferring them. He really brings them to life, and he doesn't over process and all of that, but he's got the rarest of the rare at his disposal. And he put up just today a couple of recordings very early at Columbia. These are records you just never would see in Australia. This one's from 1900, I think, or no, 1905. It's not that early, but it's these first generation Columbia discs, so I've just never seen one ever. But it is interesting material, and this one's really caught my eye because it's called Ragtime Skedaddle, and it's a very early ragtime instrumental performance on piccolo. And so I just, it's really, since I've talked about it, I might as well play it straight away.
In what would you date it?
About 1905. I thought it was earlier than that, actually, but I just noticed that the record he's put up has got a date stamp from 1904. So
one of the first recordings of ragtime.
It was very, very early ragtime. So anything that's syncopated in that ilk, that proto-jazz, ragtime, whatever, it fascinates me no end. I'll always jump on it, and I'll always indulge and learn from it. So this piece is called A Ragtime Skedaddle is the name of the piece. A Ragtime Skedaddle. And ragtime is two separate words on the label for this. Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's pretty early stuff. So here we go. I'll play it. And look, the piccolo captures particularly well. And this is one of the very early generation flat discs, a Columbia from the early days. So here we go. Ragtime Skedaddle.
Piccolo solo Skedaddle, played by Mr. George Plainfish for Columbia Phonograph Company of New York and Paris.
you have it. The Ragtime Skedaddle, work by George Rosie was the composer of that, and goes way back. So early ragtime. Great to hear those rhythms in that setting, and the influence of Joplin is just immense.
Terrific.
It's really good. The piccolo captured so well on those early recordings, and
that really penetrated, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, Frank. It was great. Yeah, and
probably in real life the piano was on about the same.
I'd say
volume.
I'd say so, and I'd say the piccolo player probably had his entire piccolo inside the horn.
That's right. Yeah, you can do that. It's the right shape, isn't it?
It is. Yes, you can immerse yourself, and so yeah, there was a guy called George Schweinfest, and it says here he was born in 1862 during the American Civil War. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
We just listened to someone born in the 1860s. Incredible. And
the piano was quite, what would you say, quite high level playing.
Yes,
wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Indeed.
You know, it's not better than basic. It was.
Yeah. It was good. It was very supportive, and it added texture and drama to the music, and rhythmically very effective.
You can just see how jazz grew out of that.
Oh, you certainly can. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
A lot of jazz in it, you know.
Yes, the essence is there, isn't it? The flavour, the gravitas, the sort of inertia, and the abandon, and there's and
the harmony structures as well.
Yes, definitely, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And above all else, that characteristic syncopation, of course. Which,
totally, yes, indeed.
Yeah, so that artist, because he lived into the age of 87 and died in 1949. Isn't it an amazing thing that he lived a long, full life and died in 1949?
Great, isn't it?
It's just amazing.
Give all the changes he saw.
Yeah, I find.
Music.
Look, for me, it's as much about these artists and the sort of world that they inhabited from way back. Most of his life, he would have had no electricity.
I heard a lovely story about Camille Saint-Saëns.
Oh, yeah?
This morning, actually. Let me take a minute.
Please.
When he was starting out, 18 to 19 years old, but no one was taking much notice of him, and he was riding away and couldn't get anyone to pay any attention to him. Mm-hmm. But Rossini heard him and really realised that he had great promise, and he got hold of a duet that he wrote that Saint-Saëns wrote for clarinet and flute, and he thought this was pretty good, so Rossini was holding salons at this stage. He was advancing in years, and he had all the glitterati there at this particular salon.
Yes.
And he's engaged two players to play this duet. And he said, this is my latest composition, and I'd like to get your opinion of it. And they played it, and they couldn't get over themselves, they were falling over each other to say how good they thought it was. And every one of them congratulated him. And when the last one had congratulated him, he said, well, I totally agree with this great music. I didn't write it. The writer's the young gentleman over there on the left, Mr. Saint-Saëns.
Oh, yeah, really? What a beautiful story.
Yeah, it's a lovely story.
As you were describing that, I was just typing in Rossini clarinet and flute. Now I'm going to change it to Saint-Saëns clarinet and flute, and I wonder if that flute, clarinet, and here we go. Saint-Saëns Tarantella, Opus 6. This would be it.
That'll be it.
Oh, wow. That's a great story.
And Saint-Saëns was later quoted as saying that to him said more about Rossini than a lot of essays that had been written about him.
Oh, tremendous. That's really powerful story. Wow. Well, there we go. That's really a real trust, isn't it? And investment in young talent, just to sort of give them an earring under those sort of under those circumstances. I think it's great, and it's a real call that's the subterfuge is completely morally acceptable in that circumstance, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's great. Oh, we'll play it. Let's have a listen. Let's hear the work in question.
It'd be great to hear it.
Yeah, I'm pretty, this would have to be it. It's
Opus 6. It's obviously a very early opus.
Yeah, Opus 6 would have to be, because he wrote an enormous amount of music, Sassos.
He did.
Yeah, so here it is. Tarantella for flute, clarinet and piano, Opus 6. A live performance. Wow, there we go. That was the Tarantelle for flute, clarinet and piano, Opus 6 by Camille Saint-Saëns. And what a fabulous little rabbit hole that was, Frank. That's great. Piggybacking on your story, interesting story about him being supported very directly by Rossini.
Had enough liveliness to sort of sound a little bit like Rossini, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It had that sort of Rossini's lovely sense of melodic. Rossini was a great melodist, and
and the rhythm, sort of, and the 6/8, the sort of Italianite rhythm.
Yes, you're spot on. Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, it could easily be palmed off. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah,
it's a bit of a heart warmer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's great stuff. I was just reading about it as well. It was considered one of the great child prodigies in history, compared to Mozart. And,
was he?
Yes, he had this amazing ability to hear a piece once or twice and memorize it.
That's a very mature composition, isn't it?
Yeah.
1890.
Yeah, well, he started composing. He was born in 1835, and he would have written that, I think, as a kid, and. But yes, I was looking at his background, and it says, as a schoolboy, Saint-Saëns was outstanding in many subjects. In addition to his musical prowess, he distinguished himself in the study of French literature, Latin and Greek, divinity, and mathematics.
It's not bad for starters.
Yeah, his interests included philosophy, archaeology, and astronomy, of which, particularly the last, he remained a talented amateur astronomist throughout his life. How about that?
How do you do all that in one lifetime?
I know. And he was a great organist. It's actually a lot written. The wiki page is long.
I must look at it. Read him up.
Yeah, do that, because I think there's a lot we should really look at his music more. I found some interesting examples of him playing, because he'd actually made a couple of records, because he lived on until 1921.
Really?
Yeah, so he lived well into his 80s. And was he born in 1835, 1921? Yeah, he had a long innings, and he was making recordings towards the end. He made a lot of piano rolls, but he also made actual recordings. And here's one of him playing the opening to his second piano concerto. I think this is recorded in 1904. So, I don't know where this came from and what the context is, but I did have a very quick listen, and it sounds like it could be quite fascinating as a document of Saint-Saëns in his mature years. Okay, how about that? Second Piano Concerto, one of his sort of great works, played by the composer.
Wow, that's terrific.
You can tell he is in the ultra virtuoso class.
Oh, yeah.
There's a real sort of swagger, that sort of almost improvisatory zeal that you get. You can always tell with a pianist who's really just transcends the music. And in that instance, he owned the music. And the remarkable document. I don't know the context of that, but apparently it was recorded in 1904. And I don't know if it was ever released in the public domain, but there are a number of scholars looking at these things, and it's been put out there. So how about that?
Oh, fantastic.
There's some other interesting material too. I'll play one more. Now this one, if people can look up on YouTube, because what's happened is someone's been able to find a silent film of Saint-Saëns playing the piano, and they've synchronized it with a recording made 4 years later of the same piece. They've worked out what the piece is, and then what they've done is they've used AI, or they've used something to slightly move the image just to fit in, so it locks in with the recording.
Yeah, sure.
And so it looks like he's playing. It's Saint-Saëns playing the piece. I just watched a little of it there, and I thought, wow, this is a remarkable thing. But it is actually a silent film, and there's quite a bit of this going on. There's a recording of Hoffman, I've noticed, from a silent film of Hoffman playing a work, which he actually recorded later, and they've again synchronized it, and it looks completely authentic.
Boy.
It's remarkable. But in this instance, we've got Saint-Saëns playing a piece called Vals Mignon, and the recording of him is actually from 1919, so he's in his 80s here. But in splendid form, by all accounts, and it's a really fascinating, rare document of Saint-Saëns in action. So I commend it. People can have a look. It's there. Jack Gibbons is the name of the channel. Just look up Saint-Saëns plays Vals Mignon, Mignonne.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, it's really, really worth noting. So we'll play it now. Isn't that marvellous? I mean, all this scholarship, all this interest in these artists, and it's all there for us to just connect with at our leisure. But we just need leisure, don't we? We need time to do it.
What was that? That's right.
And structure to do it. Anyhow, here we go. Saint-Saëns again at the piano. Oh my goodness me. That is, what a remarkable document that is. I commend it thoroughly. Mr. Saint-Saëns is almost as if he's just whipping it off. He doesn't move much when he plays. He's completely economical in his gestures. He's a big man with a long white beard, and it's like he's just having a thought bubble. Remarkable. And playing that piece with such aplomb and beautiful effervescence, and
That sounds too easy, doesn't it?
yeah, and it looks really easy. It looks like he is not even. It's not nonchalant. It's poised, but it's not. It doesn't show any effort.
That's though he's thinking of something else almost, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, almost. And but he just plays it so easily. It's just like a whimsical sort of moment of awakening of one kind or another.
It was lovely.
It's gorgeous. I love it. There's all sorts of interesting things. I've opened up a can of worms. I didn't know this much about Saint-Saëns, and I sort of always see him as a 19th century musician, but I didn't realise that he was so active in the 20th century and was actually...
I had no idea.
Yeah, and captured on recording. Now, here's another one. I've got to hear this because it's a recording of him improvising. Now,
oh my God.
Yeah. It says here, Saint-Saëns playing Saint-Saëns, improvised cadenza on Africa, Opus 89. Now read the preamble because this is particularly interesting. It says, Saint-Saëns, 1835 to 1921, travelled extensively and was particularly fond of Northern Africa, where he found the inspiration for such works as the Piano Concerto No. 5, the Egyptian Concerto, and the Suite Elegienne for Orchestra Opus 60, and the Africa Fantasy Opus 89 for piano and orchestra. Gosh, their works you just don't hear. But he was not only a composer but also a piano virtuoso who definitely kept his technique at age 68. Becomes clear on this recording made in Paris in 1904, where he improvised on themes from his Opus 89. How about that?
Wow.
So we've got to hear this. This is just...
Absolutely.
It's completely captured my imagination, and wow, how about that? Saint-Saëns improvising. I'd love to know what they're saying at the end. Wow, how about that? That was something really special. Improvisation, a cadenza of from a piece called Africa, Opus 89, recording made in 1904 by Camille Saint-Saëns.
That was amazing.
It's totally amazing. It's just mind-blowing. It makes you realise that people like that, it's all in their imagination. Writing stuff down would have been painful.
Yes, that's right. It would have such a cutting back of what they really were wanting to do.
Exactly, because when you hear that, you just get a sense of just the flights of imagination and just the whimsy and the throwing caution to the wind, all of that. And
great if they could all do that, wouldn't it?
Yes, and it just puts music into a different light, really. And when you hear that sort of wonderful ideas cascading past. Yeah, marvellous stuff. I'll play just one more from these sessions, 1904. I'm getting an idea of it now. There was an effort to capture his music in 1904. I think they realised they'd missed Brahms and they'd missed the 19th century virtuosi of people like Rubinstein. But Saint-Saëns actually lived on. He was probably born around about the same time as Brahms, but he lived on, and to a ripe age, and we were able to enjoy his contributions to the recorded art. Now here we go. This one is Two Waltzes, 1904. It says here. It says that Saint-Saëns made his first recordings for the Gramophone and Typewriter Company in Paris in 1904. And these next two pieces are from this session, as are the last couple we've heard. The Valse Mignon, Opus 104. Oh, is that the one we heard before? It doesn't matter. And Valse Nonchalante, Opus 110. He recorded the Valse Mignon also in a later... Yeah, we heard it. Oh, look, it only goes for 5 minutes. We'll hear them both again because there's another one as well. And yes, his playing can be described as clear, crisp, scarce use of pedal, charming, and with the use of rubato. What I'll do, I'll sort of judiciously just sort of jump in a little bit so that we don't gild the lily too much. Because not everyone's probably into Saint-Saëns, but here we go. We'll just hear a little of that first waltz, and then we'll hear the second. It was the most beautiful piece of music. I just loved the way it just had these flights of imagination and really took off. Yeah, it was a waltz by Saint-Saëns, a recording of him playing in 1904.
It's lovely music.
It is. It's absolutely delightful. It's just so listenable and so interesting and so full of flavour and just deep, rich imagination. Yeah, I could just keep going. I'm looking at the clock and I'm missing the party, and I suppose I should be inside. I'll play just one more. Then I'll see if I can find something just to ride out with
Sure.
while I'm inside. But as far as active being here in the seat, I think this will have to be the last. But I think I'd like to play this because this is one of my very favourite recordings of Jacqueline du Pré. It's a recording she made when she was only 16 years of age. It's actually a BBC film. She's just a kid. She's really young and she's really fresh and she's just a beautiful spirit. And she plays a piece that I used to play a lot. In fact, I've performed this at several recitals over the years, and it's in my DNA. I know it. I memorised it, and I've taught it, and I know this piece really well. And I think the way she plays it is just marvellous. I think she's just got the whole vibe. It's a work called Allegro Appassionato by Saint-Saëns, Opus 43. So I'll officially wind with this recording of Jacqueline du Pré made for BBC. It's a film too, so I commend that. If people are interested, just look it up, Allegro Appassionato, and the film will emerge. I think it's a nice way to finish. So planning to be around next week. There are a few things in the pipeline for next weekend, including a bushwalk. We're sort of organising a walk and perhaps probably an overnight walk in the Central Highlands. Yeah, so going up to Warburton and probably walking through to Powelltown. And it's a sort of a 2-day walk or 1.5 day walk. And so that's being planned as we speak. But look, I'll probably be fine for Friday afternoon program. Maybe a very short one Friday night if I've got the energy.
Maybe you think.
Yeah, so that's the plan. Probably not Saturday, maybe Sunday. And of course, it's a long weekend next weekend anyhow. So that's looking ahead. So Frank, thank you for sharing and thank you for initiating this.
Glad to share it. I did enjoy the story, and I thought you would.
I just love this. This is I had all these other things sitting here ready to go, and I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. We just went with the flow, and I've learned something. This is a part of the charm of what we do is that we learn things as we go.
Often work well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and so now I feel much more alive to the music of Saint-Saëns, as I'm sure you do, and that's good. We'll hear much more. We'll devote further missions to this. He wrote so much music. It's crazy. It's a huge.
It's too short, isn't it? Really?
It is. So here we go. Allegro Appassionato.
VK3JR is QRT, but listening, and we say good evening to the listener.
Indeed, we do. We say good evening to the listener. Thank you for being a part of it. I hope you enjoyed it, and we enjoy what we're doing here. It's always a fascinating journey. Here we go. Allegro Appassionato, Camille Saint-Saëns on vk3sl. Until next time. Was a 16-year-old Jacqueline Dupre. Unbelievable. Allegro Appassionato by Saint-Saëns, and a real emphasis on the appassionato aspects. Right. I just sends shivers down my spine hearing that performance. She's so alive.
Lovely, isn't she? She was.
She's just so great. It's just, for me, that's everything. Wow. Okay. Well, to wind up to our final, I've just dialed up this, probably my favourite recording of Saint-Saëns overall, is his Violin Concerto Number 3 in B minor, Opus 61. It's a recording with Henri Merkel and the Passel 2 Orchestra, recorded in the 1930s. Merkel was one of the great, like Thibaut, one of the great exponents of the Franco-Belgian school. So sensuous and just beautiful stylist, and a great violinist. He spent most of his time as I think he was leader of the Paris Opera Orchestra for decades.
Right.
But he did make quite a few recordings as a soloist in the early 30s before he settled down to a more orchestral career. So, but this is one of them. It's just, everything about this is full of that wonderful French sort of perfumed sound and sensuality, and I just think that this music is, I think, best in his hands. I've heard many versions of this concerto, but this is the one that sort of resonates. So I'll put it on. I'll have it on the background in the house as I'm welcoming guests, and it goes for 26 minutes, but it's really worth a listen. It's quite a rare recording, but it's lately been put up on YouTube. I used to have a bootleg version of it, which I used to play all the time. So here it is, Saint-Saëns Violin Concerto Number 3, Henri Merkel on the fiddle. Thanks, Frank. Thanks all.
Steve.
Catch you soon. Just heard Henri Merkel playing the Saint-Saëns' third violin concerto in B minor. In my opinion, the greatest interpretation of the work. It's just something so outstanding with all its Franco-Belgian effervescence and sensuous charm abound. Thanks for listening, folks. I'll be back next week. Until then, have a great week and cheerio.